Okay, I think we have started, but I am going to I'm a little bit early, so welcome if you're joining me live. I'm a little bit early, and I'm just going to give everyone and myself just about 3 minutes to settle in. If you're joining me live, let me know in the comments, please, as I get sorted here. I just want to see, if I can, there we go. So if you're joining me live, welcome. And if you're watching the replay, welcome. I don't know that I will have access to the comments as we go, so I'm just gonna, there we go. Yay, I see Sonia's here, I see Layla's here. There might be a little bit of a delay, but welcome to those of you that are joining me live. I'm going to try to keep my eye on the comments, but there are pauses in my presentation where I'm going to come up for air and check in. So I want you to make yourself at home, in the comments as you're listening. Welcome. I think we've got just a minute or two right before. I like to start on time for those of you that know me. So I've got a minute before the clock strikes 6 p.m. in Paris. And I think it's early morning Pacific Standard Time. So welcome, 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 sisters. Thank you for joining me live. Welcome. This is day one of 4 days of honoring your inner king, the masterclass. And this is the very first time I have ever offered or taught or presented a masterclass. And this is the very first time ever that I have ever shared this deep inner masculine work with an audience of outside of a sacred circle. And it feels really, really good to be here live with all of you. I mean, I have some butterflies. Oh, I see you're joining. I see all of you are joining. Thank you for being here. Raza's in New York. Sonia, I think you're still in Mallorca. Layla, I think I know you're in Oman. All right, so if you're joining me live, welcome. Give me a second to get my bearings here a little bit as I watch the live and also focus on what I want to present today and manage the technology. Thank you for being here. I want to welcome the sisters newly here, joining me for the very first time. That's a really big deal. And when I set an intention to share this peek inside this work that is near and dear to me, the intention that I set was to welcome for this work to touch new sisters. So if you are a new sister joining, welcome and thank you. And I want to say thank you to the sisters who are here, who've been sitting with me and walking with me and working with me for years. Because your presence here in this space, in the soften space for this year, and particularly in this inner king space, makes this space richer because of your experience and because of your unique medicine and your unique journey with this work. So thank you for being here. If you're here live, please put a quick emoji or hello if you haven't already. Thank you to those of you that have already done that in the comments so that I know that you're here and who's here with me. It's a little nerve-wracking being live anywhere, and even though I have 8 years of teaching experience with high schoolers, but that's a past life, and I feel very comfortable sharing things from my heart. It's still, when you show up live, it calls a different energy. And it feels really good to be here live. And I know I keep saying this, but I just want to thank you so much, those of you that are setting an intention and clearing your schedules and planning on being here with me live every day. I really appreciate it so much. If you are a replay sister coming back to watch the replay, please put replay in the comments so that I know that you are here too. Either way, I want this to be as personal and as interactive as possible this week. So anytime you have a comment about your own experience that you feel like you want to share, or if you have something, or if something that I say gives you a tingle or a terror, or if you have a question because something isn't clear, please leave it in the comments below. And if I don't see it as we're live through Zoom, I promise you that I will come back after and I will share and respond to each message. And if there's something that I feel might benefit us by deepening in, I might offer you a one-on-one so that we can deepen in based on what it is that you have a question about or what it is that you share. Because I really want this to be as personal as possible. And those of you that have been in my space before, you know that this is really how I like to do things. I like for my spaces to feel intimate and safe. I like for you to feel like you have access to me and that you can feel me. I like to do things live. I like to make myself available, and I like to do things one-on-one and in the group. So I want you to take advantage of all of that. Here's my plan for the day, and I hope that you can. I'm just going to do a quick check-in really fast to make sure that everyone can hear me. Carrie's here. Perfect. I see some of you are joining me, and I love that. If you can hear me and the sound sounds okay, I would just love a thumbs up, because I've been having some technical difficulties with sound with my live classes in the sanctuary this week, and I want to make sure that you can hear me okay without my headphones. So if you can just give me a quick thumbs up, I would appreciate that. And if any of you are having trouble hearing me, let me know, okay? Because I can tweak things on my end, but I want to make sure that everybody can hear me clearly, because I have some beautiful things that I want to share. Perfect. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, here's my outline and my intention for our first day together. I want to welcome you, which I'm doing. I want to share some disclaimers and some important notes before we begin that I think are important for you to know. I want to share my story and what brought me into this work. And what might bring you into this work, what might be bringing you into this work. I want to share why this work is important today. I want to share the work exactly. And I, of course, want to tell you what I think the law of polarity is and why it's important. And then I want to share with you the guide that I've created. And I want to leave you with 5 questions to consider after we spend this hour or so together. I don't anticipate that it's going to be more than an hour, and because I have my notes and my things written out for me, and I have a set idea of what I want to say, but I also am guided by spirit. Time might be a little bit shorter some days and a little bit, I hope not longer some days, but I'm hoping to keep it at maximum an hour. So with that said, and I like to start by just telling you exactly what it is that we're going to cover and what my thoughts are and what my intentions are. My intention very clearly is to give as many sisters as possible a peek inside this deeply powerful inner masculine work, because it is, I feel like, work that every woman could benefit from, and because it has been it's been the magic work of my life. It has changed my life for the better. And of course, if something has changed your life for the better, then you want to share it with everyone. And so my main intention is to create this opportunity for you to have access to me, for you to feel my heart, for you to hear this wisdom and let it come into you, and let you sense it for yourself, to see if you might be interested in this work in a bigger way. A few important things before we begin. And these are the things that these are disclaimers and little things that I think are important for you to know about me before we begin. Because each teacher, guide, healer, anybody that you're hearing wisdom from, it's important for you to vet them and for you to feel into their energy, and for you also to know a little bit about where they come from. I teach and share and guide from my lived experience of nearly 52 years. I'll be 52 in May. And I'm healing very, very, very. Some of my sisters and some of my friends, they shake their heads at this, like, why do you do that? But I'm healing out loud. And I've been healing out loud my whole life. And those of you that are comfortable healing out loud, you will understand this. But what means to me is that I'm on my own healing journey, and I share my healing journey in real time as a writer and a poet and a healer and a creative. I share my journey as I live it. And this is part of the healing journey for me. It's part of releasing the story. It's part of coming to terms with the story. And selfishly, as I heal out loud and share my healing journey in poetry and writing, it also allows me an opportunity to connect with others. And so, this is one of the huge, beautiful benefits that I've felt in my life with sharing my healing journey, is that I feel like it inspires others, and then others respond to me and say, "Oh my gosh, what you shared is also happening to me," or "I felt so inspired by what you shared that I feel like I want to do this work too." And so it connects me. It connects me, and I don't feel as alone in my journey. The second thing I want you to know is that because I'm sharing my healing journey oftentimes as I live it, it means that I'm a forever student. While my experience and my hindsight and my age and wisdom afford me the luxury of greater awareness, sometimes I am always curious and always learning. And I do not claim to have all the answers or know everything. Actually, calling this a master class this week is a stretch for me. And maybe that's why I've shied away from offering master classes, as if we could ever master any of the work of our lives, or this deep inner work in particular. I don't think it's possible to master it. It's like being a master of yoga, in my opinion. I don't think that's possible. But there is a potential for us to gain more awareness, and for us to always be curious, and for us to learn more, and for us to deepen in. And that's the path that I'm on. Even though I have this beautiful gift of holding space and of seeing sisters, and of guiding with the wisdom, and my lived experience has given me the experiences to be able to do this work. I am not an expert. And so I'm if I have a question about things, I always ask. And if I don't know the answer when you ask me a question, I will tell you I don't know the answer. I don't claim to be an expert. The third thing I want you to know is that I bow to and I thank my teachers every day. I share the wisdom that resonates and touches me, and I am often moved by this wisdom to the point of embodying it. And then I make it mine and I share it my way. I would not be here today without the wisdom, the guidance, the love, the seeing, and the incredible, generous insight of my teachers. And I'll share more about the specific teachers who guide me in this work in just a bit. The fourth thing I want you to know is that this exact space, and this is important, this exact space, this exact work, and this exact invitation of honoring your inner king is binary as I'm presenting it. While the energies of masculine and feminine live in every body, I'm very specifically guiding women on their journeys, and most often women in partnership or in desire of partnership with men. My guidance is clear and potent and powerful within this distinction because it's my lived experience. And this is important to know. And I hope in the way that I just shared it, you feel how inclusive I am in this distinction, because I have had women in this space who love both men and women, and have been in relationship with men and women, and this work has been really powerful for them. But the experience that I teach from is being a woman in a woman's body, and a feminine energy leading woman in a woman's body in desire or partnership with a man. And so that's really where I feel like my guidance, my teaching, my wisdom can be the most clear, the most potent, and the most powerful. And so that's why I specifically have set the space up in this way. The next thing I want you to know is, even though I am 100% human and I'm 100% spirit, I tend to love being in my spirit a little bit more. And I'm incredibly curious about faiths, a self proclaimed theologian, and deeply, deeply, deeply on a path of devotion. I'm a 350-hour certified Bhakti Vinyasa teacher under the guidance of my beloved teacher, Rusty Wells, and Bhakti is the yoga of devotion. And I don't shy away from the word God, which I mean to mean the God as you know God. So I mean, when I say God, I mean universal God. And the more that I learn about various faiths around the world, the more I realize for myself how similar these faiths are. And for me, this deep inner work, particularly deep inner masculine work, is connected to our relationship with faith and devotion. So this comes out in what I teach and what I share. And it's important for you to know that I come with that lens oftentimes, most of the time. The last thing that I want you to know before we share is that this deep inner work, this work is your work, and it's your work your way. It's your job to gather the tools and the counsel, the experience, and the love and support that you need to support your journey. I am only one source, and it's paramount that you drop your judgment in general, but particularly with anything that you discover while you're doing this work about yourself, about others. And it's advised that you see everything as a witness in this work, and that you consider radical acceptance as you journey into yourself. Anytime we come into a practice of exploring something within ourselves, there tends to be a greater opportunity for us to judge something that we discover that we don't like, for example. And so I just caution you to see if you can drop your judgment and maybe hover above yourself with a great witnessing and an incredible amount of love with radical acceptance for what you find. And this is really a constant practice. And this is one of the reasons that I'm here as your guide. It's to remind you to be gentle with yourself as you go. And those are the things that I think it's important to say before we begin this 4 days together, 5 days together, and before I share any of my wisdom about this work. And so before I go any farther, I just want to check. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Jackie's here. I see. Okay. And I'm just gonna keep checking in because I just want to make sure that I'm hitting questions and watching you. And feel free to just communicate, just feel free to chat amongst yourselves and share as things come up. And also, it's maybe this is going to live in a replay, so you don't have to write. You can watch it again. But maybe if something gives you a tingle and you feel like you want to come back to it, or you want to ask me later, if you have something where you can just take notes in front of you, this might be handy. Okay. I want to share with you how this work came to me. I think it's important. And even those of you that are here returning to this work and coming into this space for the 50th time or have been here working with me for years, you maybe haven't heard this full story. And so I thought I would share with you how I came to this work, or how this work came to me, which is often the case with regards to my personal story and how my healing journey kind of twists and turns. I came to the work of exploring my inner masculine very naturally. And once I arrived in the work, my spirit guided me every step of the way by providing the exact texts. I mean, books literally fell in my lap, the exact tools, the exact teachers and guides that I needed, the exact experiences, etc., that I needed to explore it. Maybe you're here because your spirit guided you here too. Maybe your curiosity brought you here for the very same reason. Thank you for trusting this and for being here. And maybe you just have been hearing this idea of polarity, or you've been like watching other sisters do this deep inner work and you're just curious about it. Yeah, and maybe I've been bothering you for years. I know I've been like very gently nudging several of you that are here with me in this space to consider this work. And if that ever becomes if I ever become a pest, you can just tell me to bug off. So for whatever reason you're here, thank you for trusting this and for being here with me. For me, it was a real natural curiosity, and I want to tell you exactly the story of how that happened. About 4 years ago, I was ending a relationship with a really beautiful man, a French man that I met online, who was charming and handsome and smart and successful and romantic and well traveled and incredibly sexy, and the list goes on and on and on. And it was a really painful breakup, the kind that doesn't stick at first. And maybe some of you know what I mean by that. And so the final time that we broke up, I was in a place of having tried and compromised and holding on too long and losing myself to the point where I felt some shame in that. And I was really far from my center and incredibly heartbroken. And one thing that you should know about me is that I take really big breaks between relationships because when I fall hard and fast, and I lose myself in love. And so part of the breaks that I take between relationships is that I just need a lot of time to gather my pieces. And the other reason that I take big breaks is because I take the teachings from these relationships when they don't end well, and usually it takes me years and years and years to learn the teachings and to come back into a place where I feel really whole again, to trust myself loving again. So before this relationship, I was deeply in my aloneness for years. I was healing patterns, coming back into my center. I was readying myself for a beloved that I was calling in. And when I met this boyfriend, I felt really whole, really healed, and really holy. And I felt a deep, deep spirit connection to this man. I thought he was the one. And so when it wasn't working, when we finally broke up, I was incredibly sad. I felt defeated because I thought that I was healed, but some parts of our relationship felt like old patterns and really unhealthy energy. And when I came back into my center and began to look at this relationship for teachings that I could learn from or to do better, I returned to the axiom that I have as a mantra, both personally and in my work. This axiom, which many of you know, maybe all of you know, as within, so without. And can you sense, even just in this part of the story that I'm telling you, the judgment? Can you hear the judgment that I had in what I just shared? I thought I was healed. I wanted to learn so that I could do better. I mean, this is the place that I was in at the end of this, and this is the place that I've been in various places in my path where I feel like a teacher happens to me, or an experience happens to me, or pain or heartbreak happens to me, and I think, oh, I thought I was healed. Why did this happen to me? Or I want to know what I did so that I can do a better job next time. And, I can spend some time here, but I want to continue with the story. But I just want you to sense into where I was in this place where I felt like I had spent the time and done the work. And still, the exact teacher always arrives at the exact moment to teach you the exact lesson that you need to learn. And I knew this, which is why when I was able to come back into my center, and what do I mean by that? I mean, when you're in relationship, you lose yourself. And so coming into your center is hard. It's hard, especially for women, because we open our hearts and we're constantly thinking about our beloved. And if you're like me, you're putting everyone before yourself. When your relationship ends and you're back in your aloneness, it takes a moment to recalibrate to that, to come back into your center, to come back into yourself, where you're considering yourself only, where you're designing your life again with just considering you. And what I could do in that place was go back to an axiom that I knew and trusted, a mantra that I knew and trusted, that I knew was true, as within, so without. And it was from this place that I made a list of things that at the time I called blind spots. Because if it's true that we manifest from an inner place, as within, so without, I had manifested a man who was short tempered and angry, who was super critical, who was hard to please, who was unkind and actually incredibly mean to me at times, who was not safe or trustworthy, a man who could abandon me in seconds and often did. And when I made my list of blind spots, I felt a flood of emotions enter me. This is deep inner work. This is really courageous work. This is not easy work. Oftentimes when we're sitting in a puddle of ourselves at the end of a breakup, that's all we can do. I mean, I'm eating double stuffed Oreos and drinking real milk in those moments. But when I could find my center and come into a place of, why didn't this work? And if it's true that I manifested this man from some inner place, then these things are true. Like I looked at this man that I had manifested, and I was miffed. I was ashamed. I was angry at myself. I was sad. I was a little bit afraid. And the glaring questions that I saw on the paper, literally and figuratively, that sat before me, that laid there before me, was, if I manifested an angry man, where inside of me is there anger? If I manifested a critical man, then where inside of me is there a critic? If I manifested a hard to please man, where inside of me is there this hard to please energy? If I manifested an unkind man, a mean man, where inside of me is there unkindness or meanness? If I manifested an unsafe, untrustworthy man, where does this live inside of me? And if I manifested a man who can abandon me in seconds, where does this abandonment live inside of me? This was sobering. This was not easy work. And oftentimes, when we're here in a place of heartbreak and grief and putting our hearts back together, going deeper, breaking our hearts into even more pieces doesn't even feel accessible. For me, I felt so close to love with this man that I had a deep desire to be in. This man was incredible in so many ways, but we triggered each other's core wounds almost beautifully, perfectly choreographed. But we weren't able to heal together. Instead, the relationship became a teacher for both of us, a teacher that I chose not to shy away from. Um, and that's important to know. So I dove in, I descended into my heart, and I got really curious because I was curious. I was sitting there with those questions, and I thought to myself in my ignorance in that moment, and remember, there's no judging, there's radical acceptance for all of it. But in the moment when you look at yourself and you look at the teacher and you're kind of taking inventory of what happened in the last relationship, and maybe this is resonating with some of you who are in relationship or falling out of relationship or have been in this place before, I wanted to know exactly where these things lived in me. Because at the time, I sat there and I thought to myself, I don't have any problems with anger. I don't have any problems with anger. Where does, how in the world did I manage to manifest this angry man? I am not an angry person. I'm a yogi. I'm a healer. I'm kind. I'm soft. I'm open. I'm feminine. I didn't even know what that meant at the time, really, as much as I know now. I wanted to know exactly where these things lived in me. And because I wasn't proud of some of them, most of them, all of them, I set an intention to heal them or to change them or to adjust them so that I could manifest differently. I trusted this axiom, this mantra of mine. I trusted the work and I trusted the curiosity. And this is really important. The curiosity is almost always your spirit tugging at you, guiding you, leading you. And so there was this real curiosity. And this is oftentimes the thing that we all have in common in this kind of a space, is that we're curious about why we do things or why we have the patterns that we do, or we're curious about ourselves. We're curious to the point of wanting to be more aware, more awake. And it was not easy, and it required an incredible amount of courage and lots of self-love. And this is when my spirit arrived on the scene. She guided me in the exact direction. At the time that I was on a retreat with Erica and Paul, David Data's book, The Way of the Superior Man, literally dropped in my lap. It was mentioned at the dinner table, and I was the only one there sitting around the dinner table that hadn't read it. I wanted to crawl under the table. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, this book changed my life. And I thought to myself, how could this book change the lives of all these people living in various places in the world? And I'm 50, no, I was 40, in my late 40s at the time. I've never even heard of it. And shortly after, I stumbled into a group, a Facebook group called Heros Gamos. I'd never even knew what this was. It's the sacred inner union between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, where I discovered my now teachers, Jillian Potier, Sydney Culver, Allison Armstrong, Erica Jade, John Wineland, the Yoga of Intimacy, and so many others. I revisited Esther Perel and Lisa Page, as well as Michaela Boehm. And I kept following this curiosity after curiosity after curiosity, and I could not get enough. And I'm reminded by a few sisters that I've been on this path with since who've told me that in our one-on-one sessions, Pat, oh my God, I can't read fast enough. I can't get enough information about this. I'm so curious about this. This is blowing my mind. And that's how I felt. I felt possessed. I felt possessed. This curiosity, these new teachers, the new awareness, it woke me up to the idea of polarity, which led me to the idea of my inner masculine, and I was possessed. I felt so guided, and I still do. It felt like a remembering, and it still does. And all of the pieces started to come together to a wholeness that I had never experienced before. And as I was discovering this part of me and coming into this wholeness, I felt a call to share out loud, as I do with my journey in real time all the time. And I created this offering that I call the Honoring Your Inner King. And as I called out to my field of, I did a call to my field of sisters who joined me to join me for this conversation. And when I first created this almost 5 years ago, I can't believe it was 5 years ago. And at the time, I said, and Carrie, you might remember this because, and Aisha, if you're watching, and all the sisters that first came and first said yes to me. And I said, I'm not claiming to be a teacher or even a guide. I don't know this work. I just am feeling curious about this work. And I want to share this conversation with other women who are equally curious because I wanted a circle to sit in. I wanted a circle to sit in for the reflection, for the mirrors, for the love, for the connection, for the sisterhood, for the conversation, for the intellectual conversation, so that we could all share the story or this wisdom. And 9 women said yes, and Honoring Your Inner King began, and it hasn't stopped. In this work, I found the exact places in me where all of these things, that my failed relationship, lifelong pattern of failed relationships and divorce, etc., have showed me. And each of them has inspired me, invited me deeper into my heart to healing so many things that were indeed blind spots. And I'm still healing them. It's deep devotion, it's constant practice, and possibly lifelong. The being, the beauty of being a human being. This work has been the medicine of my life. And perhaps these blind spots, or my story of realizing that I manifested something that I didn't really like, or a heartbreak, or a series of heartbreaks, resonates with you as you're joining me. I want to take a pause right now, first to take a deep breath. Carrie, I see that. I love this. I love that you're responding in real time and live here with me. And Carrie, I love that you're here with me live. You were one of the first sisters that said yes, and you've been on this journey with me as long as I have. So I want to talk about some other reasons why this inner masculine work might resonate or cause you some curiosity as we're at the exact halfway point of this first day together. So I'll take a quick deep breath and a sip of my tea. Some other reasons why this inner masculine work might resonate with you or cause you some curiosity. One, you could, or maybe you constantly feel a heavy energy or pressure to lead or be in control or make decisions in your relationships, your work, your life, and it's caused you to be tired, stressed, overwhelmed, sad, unhealthy, or alone, lonely, maybe lonely even. The second reason that you might be curious about this inner masculine work, you are constantly disappointed in the man or men in your life because they aren't making decisions or leading you or providing or stepping up, and maybe the passion and or intimacy in your relationships is also lacking or non-existent. Or maybe you've been alone for a long time and you've become frustrated and fearful that you might be single for the rest of your life. And that has brought you to be curious about this inner masculine work. Maybe you have a history of failed relationships like me and you feel a little bit ashamed, like a failure, or unsure about why this pattern exists, and you're curious about how to address it. Maybe you can no longer feel your feminine energy and you desire to be in the flow or more spontaneous or taken care of or led or be or more in a being rather than doing all the time. These are some of the reasons why women find themselves curious about this inner masculine work. And so I want to stop here for a moment and just ask you if this resonates, if you feel inspired and safe to share what is bringing you here into this work, what makes you curious about this inner masculine part of you. Share whatever you feel like is coming up. And I want to also pause and say that I love you. I love you if you're watching the replay. I love you if you're watching me live. Thank you for being here. If you feel like you want to share the reason why you're here, go right ahead. Just continuing, I want to share now what the work is, this work, this inner masculine work, what this work is. We are made up of lots of parts. Your inner masculine is just one part of you, and this work is about discovering this part of you so that you have better awareness about this part of you. Why we arrive here whole, healed, and holy. And in this human experience, we have this human body, which feels and experiences life, oftentimes with separation from spirit, but this is a conversation for another time. Awareness is the big why. It's always the big why to any inner journey or any healing journey. The more aware we are, the more awake we are, which means that we can take action from an awake place instead of living in autopilot. When we explore this part of ourselves, we become aware of many things. We wake up to some new wisdom. And this awareness and wisdom gives us a map of the action that we can take from this aware place. If we choose to, new awareness doesn't always mean taking the right action. And what I mean by right is right for you, not right or wrong. We'll address this later. The outcome is almost always, very often, change. Changed patterns, changed energy, changed experiences and circumstances, and a changed you. Those of you that are watching the replay that have been here with me for a long time, if you want to, you can share in the comments how this work has changed you. This journey changes you because you wake up to a part of you with new wisdom that may have been unexplored or asleep or a million other things. And one thing that's important to know, when we change, everything in our lives changes. We can't possibly imagine making a big change like this, coming into some new awareness, and then having everything in our lives be exactly the same. That's just not how it works. And so when we change, everything in our lives changes. This is the nature of the work. And this is important to know because those of you that are here on this path can attest to this. There's some collateral damage as you do this work. Things no longer in alignment fall away. I'm working with some sisters on that right now. We become crystal clear about what we will and we will not tolerate in our energy field, in our boundaries, in a whole bunch of things. We become more powerful and empowered, and so many other things. And this means that our lives change, and everything and everyone in it does too. And this makes sense because we're changing the as within part. So, of course, the as without part is going to change too. And the trick or the hack is if you want a little challenge, you can start with the as without part that you desire and work backwards. And that's sort of what I was doing as I was diving into, okay, here are some things that are showing up in my as without part. Let me work backwards and find those things within me and figure out why those things are there or how those things are there. And then sit with those things. And if I like them, keep them. And if I don't, I can renegotiate them in some way. This is why sisters are here with me and stay with me for years, because their lives have changed for the better doing this inner work. This is the why. This is the why. And this work is not for everyone. This work is not for everyone. This work is for brave sisters. This work is for curious sisters. This work is for feminine sisters. This work is not for everyone. I want to pause here and just take a look at those of you that are joining me live to see if there are any questions. I see Jackie's, honestly, I didn't think I could possibly need any more masculine anything. but it was a free course. And after showing up a few times to the other offerings, I'm curious. And mainly, I want to balance and open up. I love that, Jackie. To confront the everyday inner battle between my creative flow and my low vibe wants to be mundanely strong or okay and plainly independent. It was exhausting. Perfect. I love that, Carrie. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. And those of you that are sharing emojis in the live conversation, thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you're here. I'll come back and I'll address the questions or comments or thoughts or intentions or curiosities or things. I'll address those in the comments after. So I want to talk about this masterclass and get into the work of, we have 20 minutes left and this is perfect. This 4-day masterclass is just a glimpse into this work. The full offering is an 8-week journey in a sacred space with a limited number of sisters and my care in facilitating and guiding this journey with the wisdom that I know. And I'm going to tell you more about this at the end of the masterclass. I want to get into the topic of the day, which is the law of polarity. And the law of polarity is a natural law. It's one of the 12 laws of the universe. There's a diagram that I'm going to put as a follow-up to this first class in the guide for polarity. There are 12 laws of the universe, and the law of polarity is one of them. It's a natural law, and it's also a scientific law. It's a real thing. And because it's all of these things, we can come at it from many different directions, and many teachers and healers do this. And perhaps outside of this conversation, if you're new to this conversation, you're hearing the conversation about polarity from various different healers and teachers and vantage points. And so I think it's really important to know that it's a natural law, it's a law of the universe, and it's a scientific law. And even though it's very simple, and I'm going to break it down for you in the simplest terms, it is really complex when we start to get into it. I love how big this conversation is in the collective. I love it because it's become something that we're all curious about. It is super important to be discerning as you listen to this conversation, to feel into how what is being shared feels in your nervous system, just like most things. And I like to do this to everything. We all take the law as it is and apply it. I'm going to take what I know about the law and what parts of it resonate with me and my journey and my understanding, and I'm going to share this. So it's going to be my perception, my own way of taking the law and applying it to my life and my experience and what I know, and I'm going to share it with you in my way. So I think it's important for you to listen to the full conversation and to take the bits and pieces of what you learn about polarity from all of us and then make it yours. Feel into your nervous system, because there are some people that are focused on the science part of it, and there's some people that are focused on the natural law part of it, and there's some people that are making it a certain way that has to do with their journey. And so you just feel into it and use your discernment. The law of polarity very simply says that we live in a world of opposites, a dualistic world. This isn't a big surprise to any of us. This is the law exactly. It means that we live in a world with light and dark, sunrise and sunset, love and hate, cold and hot, yin and yang. That's the law. The law of polarity simply says that we live in a world of opposites. That's the law. And with this law of opposites, it tells us that we know these opposites because of the two opposites. We know darkness because of the light. We know love because of hate. This law gives us opposites so that we can know both, so that we can know the whole thing. I love this. Imagine a world with just darkness, or just light, or just love, or just hate. For me, polarity isn't about the two parts or opposites or poles, when you're looking at it in a scientific sense, necessarily, but it's about the two parts. It's about what the two parts tell us is possible on the spectrum. Think of a sunrise and a sunset, for example. The two parts, poles, are opposites, sunrise and sunset. And imagine the time just before each, dusk and dawn. Or imagine how you feel about one or the other based on what you know about both. It's a full spectrum. And so it's not really about the sunrise and the sunset. It's about what we learn by having these two opposites and knowing what these two opposites are. What do they tell us about each other? And then what becomes our own experience about it? So it's really beautiful. The law of polarity gets really, really interesting when we apply it to the masculine and the feminine, which is what we do in this work. And understanding this law in this work is mandatory. And coming to terms for how this law resonates with your inner landscape is really important and the first curiosity to meditate on. If we take the simple law and what I just shared and apply it to masculine and feminine, then we can say in a really black and white place or black and white way, and we look at opposites. And I posted a chart in the polarity guide about it's literally a black and white chart, and I posted it, and it has the characteristics of these two energies in the polarity guide for you. The energies of or the attributes or characteristics of masculine, and the energy of feminine, the attributes and characteristics of feminine. And if we were to look at it as black and white, masculine and feminine as the opposites, the poles, and some teachers only look at it that way. Well, if you're in your masculine, you have these traits, and if you're in your feminine, you have these traits. And that's certainly true, but that's not the full story. The feminine is this, the feminine is that, the masculine is this, the masculine is that, is only one part of the story. This is all true, and when we're talking about energies or parts, especially energies and parts that live in every body, it gets a lot more complex because it's a body of energies. And so there are a lot of options, a lot of possibilities. And that we are exploring your body and how does it show up in your body is it, there are almost 50 women in this space. To say that the masculine is this way in every one of the 50 bodies, and the feminine is this way in every of the 50 bodies, it's just not the full story. And so that's important to know. Just for one moment, imagine a woman with masculine energy. What do you imagine? And just for one moment, imagine a man with feminine energy. What do you imagine? And I'm going to do a judgment check in here. Did you notice, did you hear, did you sense any judgment like sneak in as I asked this question? If so, write this down because this is really valuable information for you to follow and be curious about. Why did I just judge when Pat said a woman in her masculine? Why did I judge that? Or did you hear your thought, ew, a man in his feminine? Why did I just judge that? Why did I just say, ew, a man in his feminine? Why? This is really important internal dialogue information. If you sensed some judgment or you felt some judgment, as I said, just for a moment, imagine a woman with masculine energy. Just for a moment, imagine a man with feminine energy. This is important. The truth is, we have both energies all the time, all men and all women. The additional aspect, and so I want to just stop here for a moment, okay? Because there are schools of thought that take this law of polarity and they're really very black and white about it. Like I said, they're very scientific about it. And some of them take it and they just make it into something bigger. And so you have here, and you can do the replay, you can push rewind as many times as you want. And you can also do Google search, research all you want. The exact law, the simple law, and how we're applying it to masculine and feminine. And the truth is, we have both energies all the time, all men and women, in our bodies. The additional aspect that makes this really interesting, and that really becomes more of a focus of my work with the inner king, is not necessarily that we have these parts in our bodies, these energies in our bodies, or even which energy we lead from, although that comes into play for sure. The additional aspect of the law of polarity that becomes incredibly interesting when we apply it to the masculine and the feminine is the scientific principle. This principle says that polarity is when opposites attract. And if you think of electricity, this is the easiest way to think of this. A charge requires a plus and a minus to be electric or polaric. And if this is true, then we know that two pluses or two minuses create the opposite, no electricity, or it's depolarizing. Did you ever hold two batteries together with the same charge facing each other, for example, to feel how they actually repel each other? When you hold the pluses together and the minuses together, instead of coming together and almost like connecting in an electric way, you can feel. It was like one of my favorite things to do. It's like one of my favorite little science things to do. You can actually feel the tension. You can feel that they're actually repelling each other. This is a great example and a great way to feel the effects of this scientific law. And then the opposite is true when you switch the battery and you've got the pluses and minuses matched up. Light comes on. The electric toothbrush works. Like real electricity happens. A spark happens. It's really, really dynamic. Now let's apply this to our inner masculine journey. Very simply, two feminine energies together or two masculine energies together aren't as electric as a feminine and a masculine. Okay, certainly we could agree to that based on the scientific law of polarity and this battery example. Two feminine energies that come together, two masculine energies that come together aren't going to be as electric as the feminine and masculine. I want to do another judgment check. If you just did any kind of judgment around, oh, then it's bad if two feminines come together or two masculines come together. That's bad. That's judgment. Actually, we're doing this right now where we're all coming together, potentially sitting in sisterhood in our feminine energy. You're in a place of receiving. Maybe not exactly because I'm taking the masculine a little bit in leadership and in giving you and providing for you. So it's not exact. But there are beautiful examples of where two feminine energies coming together or two masculine energies coming together are really, really beautiful. And in relationship, we do this all the time with each other. So there's no judgment, okay? In relationship, any relationship, if one person is in their feminine and one person is in their masculine, this will be the most dynamic or electric scenario in the relationship. And when they are both in their feminine or both in their masculine, this will feel less dynamic or less like an electric charge. Okay, et voila. The mind is blowing now. Let's pause for a moment and take that all in. And maybe if you're like me, when I first learned this bit of wisdom, I saw a quick and long history of relationships flash through my mind like a film. And I took inventory of how this new information has been playing out in my life and my relationships. Oh my God, you've been in your masculine. And this has maybe caused the relationship to either be depolarized, less sexy, or it's caused the man in your life to come into a different energy to keep it sexy. So I want to just do a little check-in. I want to do an energy check-in. Let's do a quick check-in personally. I posted a leading energy quiz in the polarity guide for you to explore if you felt a tingle. It's not exact science, it's Tony Robbins, but it will give you the inspiration to be curious about which energy you generally lead with and something to deepen in with as you consider this new possibly awareness and the natural law and apply it to your relationships and your life. Which is your natural leading energy? If you want to, if you haven't already put it in the guide and you did the quiz and you want to tell us in the comments what your leading energy was and whether or not you agreed with that, I would love for you to share in the comments. Which is your natural leading energy? Do you agree with the outcome of the quiz? Are you in this energy in your relationships? So that's the question. We're doing a really quick energy check-in. Because remember, the energy lives in all bodies. Masculine and feminine lives in all bodies. So it's quite possible that you could be a feminine leading with masculine energy. That certainly was the story of my life. I was leading with masculine energy in a lot of my relationships. And that caused me to have to be in like a pickle in situations with the energy. And I was in a pickle with some of these men because of this scientific and natural law. And let's apply this new wisdom to your life. The last bit of inspiration that I want to leave you with today, which we spend a great amount of time exploring in honoring your inner king, is how does this wisdom this awareness about the law of polarity apply to your life? How does this apply to me? That's the question. And every single one of us is going to have a different answer. And so I've created 5 questions that I want to leave you with at the end of today's class. And I'm going to put this in a file so that you have it, okay? You don't have to write quickly. You don't have to push replay. I'm going to put this in a file in the guide. You can also find it in the file section of this space. These are 5 questions that I want you to consider or meditate on or journal about, okay, as you begin to integrate this work and figure out whether you still are curious about this work or want to continue deepening in with this work. Number 1, if my leading energy is masculine, this means that I may be attracting a feminine man because of the law of polarity. How do I feel about this? How does this show up in my relationships or in my life, if this is true for you? Number 2, my leading energy is feminine, but in most of my relationships, I feel like I am in my masculine most of the time. This doesn't make sense based on what Pat shared. If I'm leading with my feminine, I should feel the opposite. I should feel electric, polaric energy. And this means that the other person should be in their masculine, not me. This is something to consider. If my leading energy is feminine, this certainly was true for me. I felt like my leading energy was feminine, but I think maybe it was masculine. Number 3, when I look at my current relationships, are they mostly dynamic, balanced, or neutral based on this new wisdom, the law of polarity, and my new awareness? Are they mostly dynamic, balanced, or neutral? Number 4, what type of connection or relationship am I in deep desire for with a man, if this is true for you? Do I desire a masculine leading man or a feminine leading man? And number 5, how does this new wisdom feel for me? Do I feel a remembering? Does it feel like a trigger or sort of confronting? Does it feel like a tingle and a curiosity that I want to dive into and learn more about? The last question is really just to check in to see how this is touching you, how this is resonating with you or not. And I want to just say a few big cautions. Take what resonates and let go of what doesn't, because I'm just one source sharing my wisdom and sharing my lived experience of my own journey as I heal out loud. And another big caution, it is very rare that we are ever in one energy all the time. We are constantly moving from one energy to another, and oftentimes based on the energy presented in front of us. We're responding to the energy in front of us. This is what makes this work so huge and so full of magic and such a practice, because if everyone could stay in the same energy, then we could practice being in the opposite energy, but that's just not how it works. The energy is it's static, it's constantly moving. And we deepen into this in the 8-week course. When you are at work and your female boss drops into her feminine and cannot lead you, you may be required to slip into your masculine with her to be productive and successful with your work. And part of you might resent her for not being able or capable of leading you. And then you go home to your masculine man and you have to drop into more of a feminine energy to keep things sexy with him. It's a dance. And the more aware we become of how our inner landscape is designed and what the masculine is all about, and whether or not we have access to these two energies equally, this is all part of the work. What often happens in today's world is that many women are out in the world having to be in their masculine for beautiful reasons, work, providing, career, etc., etc., etc. And this affects the energy, all of the energy around them. And if they don't or cannot also access their feminine, so how does this look? A woman is at work, highly successful in her masculine all day, every day, married or partnered with a man who relies on this, trusts this, taps into this, and she rarely drops into her feminine for lots of reasons, which we explore in detail in this work. So her partner takes the feminine role to keep things dynamic. or the relationship loses its polarity because both are in their masculine. This is where I want to leave things for now with the law of polarity. There's a lot of things to unpack here, and we do this in the King offering and beyond. Actually, in the soften journey, this is the lifelong invitation. But it all begins with a clear, basic understanding of the law of polarity and how it applies to you and your life. I've shared some things on in the polarity guide for you to consider, and I'm going to be adding a few things just after I push stop and save this. I'm going to be adding some things that come up, and I'm also going to be adding the questions and a few things that I want you to watch if this is giving you a tingle. Take time to integrate this new wisdom awareness and consider if it resonates and how it resonates. And if something gave you a huge tingle or a trigger, let me know. Like it gave me a big trigger, it gave me a big tingle. The question will be, will you open up to the tingles and triggers and explore them more, or will you feel like you've had enough and it's also okay if it's not something that you want to open up or something that you want to explore. This is also always okay. And I'm here to guide you. This masterclass is an opportunity for you to feel my heart, for you to hear your discernment when you're listening to my wisdom, and decide if you believe me and if you trust me and if you feel me, and then follow your curiosity. And I hope you'll stay close, and I hope that you'll say yes to deepening in with me. That's the invitation here. I love you. Thank you for being here with me. If you are here live and you have feedback or a comment or a question, please leave them here and I'll do my best to drop in with you. If you are watching the replay, tell me that you're watching the replay and add your thoughts here too so that I can respond. If you felt a deep and sudden yes to this work after day one, and you know immediately that you want to take one of the 7 spots for the next session. Actually, there are only 5 spots left beginning in February. Please send me a DM or an email right away so that I can hold one of those spots for you. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow for more. We're going to talk about the collective masculine tomorrow. I want you to be gentle with yourself in your new awareness. You're not alone. You're here with many, many, many sisters equally curious. I invite you to lean in, to take up space, to write things as they come up, share. I'm also very open this week. If you want to send me a DM, if sending me a voice note, through my Instagram, or responding to one of my emails, or putting something in Facebook privately, I'm here, fully accessible to you. That's part of the invitation, part of the promise, and part of what I want to create here in this space with you. And I hope this resonated to some degree and that it gave you a tingle mostly. And I look forward to tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm looking at the comments as I see that it's exactly 7 o'clock. All right. I love you so much. I will see you very, very, very soon. Okay. See you next time. Ciao.